Everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. Come and eat. Listen.
That's a very tender song. Remove the veil. When Adam and Eve sinned, they cut themselves off from Elohim. And that's like a spiritual feed tube, a link that was cut off. It's like you put a crimp in a hose. That link between heaven and earth was cut off. And a veil came down between heaven and earth and between man and Elohim. And that veil is the world, the flesh, and the devil. Those things that keep us from Elohim. And our sight has been made dim, like this song says. My heart is dull. My mind is darkened by iniquity, by sin. And that, what Adam and Eve did, got passed on down to us. We were born cut off. Other than our little spirit man, like I say, it's like a pilot light that's burning in there. Like a pilot light in a stove or a furnace. A little pilot light. We're born with this little pilot light, with this basically it's our conscience that kind of knows what's right and wrong, and it kind of points us toward Elohim. Paul talks about that, I believe it's in Romans chapter 2. They have a basic knowledge of the Torah, although they don't know Him. A basic knowledge of right and wrong. And when they go against that, I'm talking about the people in the world, there's the little conscience, their guilt, shame comes in. Those that have not seared their conscience, as Paul talks about in, I don't remember, it's 1st or 2nd Timothy. And he is, Yehovah Elohim is reaching out to people. As Yeshua said, many are called and few are chosen. We are dead in our sins, and He puts out a call. And it can come in many different ways, and it's up to us to respond to that call. The Bible talks about a calling. Yeshua talked about a calling, and the apostles talk about a calling. I don't think we can respond. I don't think we don't choose Him. He chooses us. Why, I don't know. Why He chooses some and not others, I don't know. That's the infinite wisdom of Elohim. But He chooses who He chooses, or whom He chooses. And it's up to us to respond. And I think that we don't even have, generally speaking, the strength to respond to Him. I think He even gives us the strength to respond. And some people respond wholeheartedly, some people respond a little bit. This is where the parable of the wheat and tares come in. So the good seed is sown on the ground, and 3/4 of it end up being failure. But the seed that was sown in the good ground produced fruit. May we be that good ground, if we stay faithful to the end and overcome. We're going to talk about that in a minute. You know, that veil, I pray continually. This is not what I'm planning to talk about. This is just that song inspired me, so I'm just speaking extemporaneously right now by the Ruach. But how many of you have been in a place, if you could just, like Moses, if I could just see your face. You're in a particular dark time in your life. You know, we have to walk by faith, not by sight. We know that. The just shall live by faith. But sometimes we can just hear His voice in a particular moment of darkness and despair and discouragement. And Moses was in that place after the children of Israel sinned at the golden calf. Here Yah had brought them out with a mighty arm out of Egypt. And yet Moses has gone up on Mount Sinai getting the commandments, the 10 commandments and the rest of the Torah. And they, after 40 days or somewhere during that time, they start worshiping the golden calf. They mixed pagan worship with with the with the worship of Yehovah. And Moses was in despair. And Yah was merciful and gracious. And he gave him a look and revealed his grace, his 13 attributes of grace. They're in, well, the golden calf incident was in Exodus 32. I think this is in 34, 35. Father, I ask you in the name of Yeshua to remove the veil from your people. Remove the veil from me. Circumcise our hearts. Uncircumcised hearts. We're kind of mixing metaphors here, but that keeps the veil up. When the filth of the world and the flesh keep us from seeing. Like sheep, we've gone astray, every man to his own way. But Yeshua reached out to us through his blood and through that call. Will we respond? And the veil coming down from our eyes is a progressive activity or progressive thing. It's a lifetime. It's like a journey. It's like taking a trip out in the hiking, like going on a hike up in the mountains. And you come around the bend and there's this beautiful panorama. And then you go through the forest and you come up on a ridge. And then you have another beautiful panorama. And then you go along the ridge. I'm thinking of places I've hiked and backpacked in the Cascade Mountains. And then you go down in the valley and you can't see anything. And then you go around the corner and here's this beautiful vista. Here's a mountain or something. Or here's a meadow or a waterfall. And that's what life is like. He's giving us progressive revelation as to who he is. So this veil being lifted is a progressive thing. But we got to seek it. I don't think the veil is going to be lifted if people aren't seeking. James says you receive not because you ask not. And then when you do ask, often it's selfish requests. Yeshua said to ask, seek, and knock. He's not going to give his precious revelation, much less eternal life, to people that aren't daily seeking it. Do you think he wants to give the power of the universe to his bride and to his people for them to squander it and there be another rebellion like what happened with Satan? I don't think so. We've got to want it. And we've got to walk the walk the way he laid it out. So remove the veil. That's a beautiful song. You know, Yeshua, when he died, the writer of book of Hebrews talks about the veil that came down. The veil, the paroquet into the tabernacle of Moses, has separated the Devir, or the Kadosh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, from the Kadosh place, or the main sanctuary there in the tabernacle. But we got to walk through. I'm telling you, how many people do you know? They get a revelation. They either get a revelation of Yeshua, they're lost in the world and the sin, and they see the glorious, beautiful light of Yeshua, and they see the Savior. But then there's this Lord thing. He wants me to give up everything, and he's now to be my new master. Some people embrace it, and some people pull back. And they go back into the world, back into the shadows, back into darkness. And then some people get and those that go forward get born again, regenerated spiritually. And then for those who want to go to the next level, you have the baptism of the Spirit, baptism of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is another experience beyond being spiritually regenerated. It's about being empowered by the gifts of the Spirit to go out and to gather in the harvest. It's not just so you can show off in church, it's so you can go out and gather in the harvest. I mean, I remember when I was raised in a church where we were against any of that stuff, didn't know any better. And I got touched in 1990 in my living room, didn't even know what it was, but I knew it was good. I got touched part way, and I still had a lot of religious baggage I had to get rid of from where I was raised. And then I got touched a big way 2 years later in 1992. And this time I was in a Pentecostal church. Before that I was in a Sabbath church, born and raised. And Sabbath and the feast days and all that. And I mean, as soon as I got zapped, I was out witnessing. I had to preach the gospel on the streets and wherever else I could. I mean, I just compelled me. Now everybody's got a different experience, but that's what I was called to do. And I did that for many years in Portland and around this area. It was pretty radical. That's not for everybody, but that's what I did. I was preaching, wearing gospel signs, and preaching loudly all over Portland, and taking people with me, trying to avoid arrest. Healing the sick, casting demons out of people. It was wonderful. But then I got the revelation, and so he brought me to that place. But I was still hungry for more. I realized that the church was missing some stuff. So I came back to my Hebraic roots, back to the Torah, but this time as a Spirit-filled believer. And then he revealed to me, and I already had a background of this because my family goes back to the 1940s and these understandings about the two houses of Israel. But I understood how it was relevant to me. Realized we've got to gather in the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And that's why I was raised with these things. And primarily they're to be found in the Christian church. And bring them back to the Hebrew roots back to the foundations, the biblical foundations of the apostles and of what Yeshua taught, and back to the ultimate bedrock foundation of the Torah. And so the veil was pulled away from my eyes on that one. I recognize I'm Israel. I'm redeemed Israel. I may not know what tribe I am, but I'll know when it's time to go into New Jerusalem and there's no Gentile gate. I'll know which gate I'm supposed to go through. And there's more and more levels. The level of understanding the Torah. Spirit, not only the truth, but the Spirit. So, and I don't know what's next, but there's more. Because Elohim is a deep ocean, a vast well, a universe. A universe. I mean, he made the universe, so he's bigger than that. A couple weeks ago, I was down at my wife and I were camping in Diamond Lake, and I'm out in the lake about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock after it's really dark. No light pollution, 5,000, 5,100 foot elevation. I'm looking up, I'm out in the lake, swimming, bathing. I'm looking up at the Milky Way. You get some good pictures out there of the Milky Way when you're at the 5,100 foot level, away from anything else. It's like, it's light. There's so many stars, it's just light. You can't even differentiate them. And I guess we're in the Milky Way galaxy. I mean, I don't even comprehend the vastness. And yet Elohim is bigger than that. So Father, remove the veil and help us to have a desire to know you and to want to go deeper. But it's got to start, we got to want it with everything that we have. It's so much bigger than anything we ever even dreamed of. Anything that can be contained in a church building or in a denomination or anything. So let us seek that he may remove the veil from our eyes. And I'm praying that prayer as much for me as for anybody else. And the longer I go in this walk, the more I realize how few people really want to go. As I start to go forward, as I start to say, people come to levels and they stop and they pull back. I see this all the time. They come to a level, as I started to say a bit ago. Thank you, Ruach, for reminding me where I was going with this. I get going. But they want the fire insurance, but they don't want the lordship of Yeshua. So they pull back. But those that want to go forward, yes, Yah, whatever you want. You're my new master. You bought and paid with me by your blood. And so they go forward. And then he gives them the next level. And I was hungry, thirsty, Started hungering and really thirsting in my late 20s, and at 30 I received the baptism of the Ruach. Didn't even know what it was, but I had a godly grandfather who instructed me in these things, who was filled with the Spirit back in the 1960s in the early charismatic renewal. And he instructed me. He wasn't part of the church I was raised in. And so he wasn't bound by those strictures. Not scriptures, strictures, those limitations that human beings put on people. And then I learned everything I could in the charismatic Pentecostal churches for a few years, and then I came back. What's more? I got to come out of this Babylon. This is a mixture. They're not teaching all the truth. And then, I had the revelation of the two houses, the restoration of redeemed Israel. I had an understanding of that, but I came to a higher level. And then a deeper understanding of Torah. I was born and raised in the Torah, but I had to keep seeking. How many people stop seeking and they reach their level of complacency in their comfort zones? And they stop seeking and they're just like playing religious games now and just treading water. I don't think you guys are these kind of people. Not the ones that come to this congregation, by and large. But we all can find ourselves in that place. It's like this. It's like the person is, Aristotle or one of those guys had this thing about the people that lived in a cave. It's like you live in a cave all your life and your eyes are not used to the light. You ever been in caves? And the plants that grow down there, they don't have any chlorophyll in them. I mean, they might get a little tiny bit of light. But then there's animals down there that they're blind, they can't see. And if they were given the light, they were dropped at the opening of the cave, they literally would freak out. Or they either couldn't see it, or the light would be so blinding to them that they would not be able to handle it. I kind of laugh because I work outside every day. I don't wear sunglasses. I don't need sunglasses. They just get in my way. Once in a while, I'll wear sunglasses when I'm driving, depending on the angle, the angle of the windshield, because sometimes it reflects in a weird way. So I'll put them on. But on my trucks, I don't need them. My eyes are used to this bright sunlight. But somebody that's inside all the time, their eyes aren't used to that. Some people wear sunglasses just to be cool. But some people, it's because their eyes are weak. But I'm amazed at how many people come to the light and they just are about to have a breakthrough spiritually, and then they pull back at the last minute. They shoot themselves in the foot. They self-destruct. As a pastor for 18 years, I have seen this. My wife and I, as co-pastors, we have seen this again and again and again. People get so close and then they pull back. Paul talked about that. I think it was Paul. Drawing back. You get to a point and you pull back. Let's not be like that. I've seen so many people that Yah has a call in their life, and they have gifts and talents. They can be a blessing to the body of Yeshua. But there's a test they have to pass. This is going to be a caveat into my next talk. This is entree, or appetizer. I hope it's an appetizer. I hope it's a tasty appetizer. I hope it encourages somebody. This was not on the menu. But anyway, so many people, you raise them up and you see prophetic gifts in them and teaching gifts, and then they have to pass a test and go to the next grade. Like school, you got to pass a test to get to the next grade. Get your diploma or whatever. And we all have to pass tests. And some people do, but more often than not, the test comes, Yah allows that test. It's kind of like when he allowed Job, a righteous man, the most righteous man, he allowed Satan to test him. Hallelujah. Job passed the test and went to the next level. There's many people in the Bible that passed the test and went to the next level. Many people didn't. My heart breaks as a pastor, as a shepherd, that I pour my life, I don't know how more passionate I can be. I pour my life into people. I work, at this time of year, I'm working anywhere from 10 to 13 hours a day in my tree service as an arborist. There's a helmet there. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then I minister to people with whatever energy I have left. And you all know, I don't make my living from the ministry. I don't take any money from it. All my work and my writing, I do it for free. I could take something, but at this point I don't. I haven't for the last 18 years. So why do I do it? Why? Because of the love of Elohim constrains me. It's not because my wife and I are trying to build a big church. We don't have a big congregation. And there's people we minister to on the internet around the world. I do it because a call on my life, and I have to. Other than this satisfaction of knowing I'm doing Yah's work and trying to, there's nothing in it. Why? I could be at home in my air-conditioned office right now, reading my Bible and sitting in my easy chair. And you could too. No, why are you here? Because there's something bigger. So let's not pull back. Let's go forward. Let's pass the test. And as we do, He will give you more revelation. Where are you today compared to where you were 10 years ago? What were you doing 10 years ago? What did you believe? What was your spiritual life like? What church were you in? Have you made spiritual progress? Has He given you revelation? Would you go back to where you were before? I don't think so. Otherwise you'd be there, right? Amen? So, when we look back, we say, wow, look at the tests I've passed. Look at the mistakes I've made, but I've learned from those mistakes. Look at the vistas that He has given me. Look at the veil He's pulled down, and look where I am. Look how I've learned. Well, just imagine where you'll be in another 10 years if you've made this much progress by His grace and divine enablement in 10 years. Where will we all be in 10 more years? Think about that. So let that encourage you to keep seeking and go forward. Amen? And He will, like the song we just got done singing, He will lift the veil progressively until we will be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. But we don't know what that's like, as John said in 1 John 3. We will be like Yeshua. We don't know what we will be like, but we will be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. That's the best we know. So let's press on. Amen. Hallelujah.
Seek the Lord while He may be found. Call upon His name. He is near. He is near. He is near. Yeshu Hashem Behir Matzov Kerahu Yoto Karov Karov Yasov Rasha Darko Leishavim Machshevotav Yashovel Adam Shem Yarbe Lis Yeshu Hashem Behim Matzo Kerahu Yota Karo Karo ישוע השם בהימצאו, כראוי